What's going on, guys? National Master Nelson Lopez, and in this video I'm going to explain the CenterCounter Defense, also known as the Scandinavian Defense, in 3 minutes. So the CenterCounter Defense is when black plays d5 in response to e4. The interesting thing about the center counter is that black is violating one of the opening principles of not bringing out your queen too early in the opening. But despite that, a lot of top-rated players have actually had really good success playing the center counter as black. So after white captures your pawn, there are two main moves: queen captures and knight to f6. So the main line for black is to capture with the queen, although knight to f6 is another alternative, and this is actually my personal favorite. The idea is that you're actually giving up a pawn to gain quick development and some counterplay. So if white plays c4 to defend his pawn, you can play what's called the Icelandic gambit, which is e6, and after white captures, you recapture with the bishop. So black's down a pawn at this point, but he has two pieces already developed. White has none. And black has a lot of open lines for his pieces, so this bishop can very easily go to any of these squares. Your knight has a nice developing square. Your queen is already on the file. You can castle either direction, and you get a lot of counterplay for just one pawn. And as I mentioned, this is one of my favorite gambits to play as black. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'm going to be doing an in-depth guide on the Icelandic gambit at some point in the future, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on that when I get it done. But now let's go back to the main line for black. Okay, so after white captures, normally black will recapture with the queen. And like I mentioned, you have to be okay with your queen getting chased around a little bit if you go this route. So after knight to c3, you have to retreat your queen or move it to safety somewhere. So the options for black are to go to d6. You could go all the way back to d8, or queen to a5 is the main line that I'm going to show you now. And then we have d4, knight to f6, knight to f3, bishop to f5, bishop to d2, c6. Now, this is an important move because white is threatening your queen indirectly. That means if he moves this knight somewhere, your queen's going to come under fire. And so c6 is an important move so that black has an option to retreat the queen. Usually the queen will go back to c7. And then after bishop c4, e6, queen e2, knight b to d7, we have a very typical position of the center counter. So the pawns are on e6 and c6. White has more space than black, but black's position is very solid. And after black probably retreats the queen, brings the bishop to d6, you can really consider castling either direction, depending on what white does. And like I mentioned, a lot of high-rated players have had good success with the center counter as black. Alright, so that's a brief summary of the Scandinavian defense or the center counter. I hope that was helpful. If you got some value out of that video, I'd appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up. As always, thanks for watching and take care.